Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. Charlotte, thank you very much for sharing your story. It's impressive. Dr. Johnson, everyone at Cuyahoga Community College, thank you for being here and having me here. And by the way, all the elected officials, you know what we call this in my business? We call this a busman's holiday. To have to come and ride a bus again with another guy. You're awful nice to be here. The only thing worse for an elected official when the president shows up is to say, the worst sentence in English language is, I'm at the airport. And so thank you all so much. You got some really great friends here. Start with Marcy. And anyway, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Dr. Johnson, thank you very much and for letting me borrow, by the way, Marcia Fudge to serve as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. You know, certain places, just by chance and circumstance, can become markers in the course of your life or of the course of the nation. And for me, Tri-C is one of those places. Just a little over a year ago, March 10, 2020, I came to Cleveland as a candidate running for president to hold a rally here at the community college. Upon unloading, we got word that Governor DeWine, he did the right thing, wanted large indoor events to shut down because of the growing concerns over the virus and spreading all across America. There would be no rally that night. And life in America had changed, and a long, dark year was about to descend upon all of us. 14 months later, we finally made it to campus. And from a year of darkness, we're now emerging into the light. And I said from the very beginning, there's no chance for this economy to come back unless we beat the pandemic. I remember Congressman Ryan and I talking about that a lot in the campaign trail. You had to beat the pandemic to bring the economy back. And so that's what we set out to do, to help a lot of the people that are right here. And after administering 271 million doses of vaccine in the first 120 days, and we have the cases are down now from January, they're down 83%, COVID cases, down. The number of deaths has fallen by 85%. Schools are reopening, businesses are opening, restaurants are reopening, and I hear that as last night's vaccine lottery, Ohio has a new millionaire. I tell you what, who would have thunk it? $1 million for getting the vaccine. But it's working. Now 56% of Ohioans have had at least one shot. We've got to get to 70%. That's the goal. We've turned the tide on the once-in-a-century pandemic. We've turned the tide on a once-in-a-generation economic crisis. And families are beginning to be able to breathe just a little bit easier. We still have work to do, but our future today is as bright and as wide open as it ever has been. And now we're faced with a question. What kind of economy are we going to build for tomorrow? What are we going to do? I believe this is our moment to rebuild an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Not a trickle-down economy from the very wealthy. That has never benefited people who are at this college or any other place where they're trying to make a living. To build an economy that rewards work, not just wealth. An economy that works for the backbone of this country. The people who get up every single day, work hard, raise their families, pay their taxes, serve their country, volunteer in their communities, just looking for a little bit of breathing room. My dad used to say, just a little bit of breathing room, honey. And Tim has heard me say this 1,000 times. My dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. The last few months have demonstrated what that economy can look like. When When our event here was canceled in March, our economy was on the brink of collapse. My mom used to have an expression, say, you know, the greatest gift God gave mankind was the ability to forget. Because if it didn't do that, every woman would only have one child. But all kidding aside, the good news is we forget the bad times. That's the good thing about we Americans. We're always optimistic. But 10 months ago, we were in trouble. When I was sworn in, there were 10 million fewer jobs in America, and a lot here in Ohio. But in my first 3 months in office, the economy has added back 500,000 jobs per month. In fact, we've created, with the help again of the members of the Congress that are here today, 1.5 million jobs, more jobs than have ever been created in the first 3 months of any presidency in the history of the United States. Before I took office, the average initial claims for unemployment insurance were over 830,000. This morning we learned that number has fallen below 460,000, cutting in half, and we're at the lowest level we've seen since March 2020, when the pandemic first struck. Before I took office, almost 24 million Americans were going hungry. Marcy's heard me say this before. Did you ever think you'd see people lined up for miles and miles and miles going into a stadium to get someone to put a box of food in their trunk? People who never, ever, 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 ever thought they'd need that kind of help. Well, that number of hungry Americans, food-starved Americans, has dropped by 30%. Still too many, but there's clear progress. Before I took office, independent experts were projecting that our economy would grow at 3 to 4% in the year 2021. But they're now projecting that growth will be 6% or higher in 2021. The fastest growth in this country in 40 years. To sum it up, COVID cases are down, COVID deaths are down, unemployment filings are down, hunger is down, vaccinations are up, jobs are up, growth is up, people gaining health coverage is up, small business confidence is up. Put it simply, America's coming back, America's on the move. And that wasn't an accident. It wasn't luck. It happened for two reasons. First, we made the vaccine program a priority. As my friends in Congress tell, I got a lot of heat for just focusing on the vaccine. It goes back to what we all talk about. You've got to fix the pandemic before you can fix the economy. We were able, with a lot of hard work, get 600 million doses of the vaccine, enough for every single solitary American. We didn't have enough vaccinators, so I went to FEMA, the United States military, went to the AMA and got retired docs and nurses to come out of retirement. Got thousands and thousands of additional people to administer the vaccines we didn't have before. We created more places to get vaccinated, hitting my target to ensure that 90% of all Americans would have a vaccination site within 5 miles of where they live. And now, 50% of all of America, more than any other country, is fully vaccinated. 75% of seniors, black, white, Hispanic, across the board, are fully vaccinated. We're getting lives back. American economy is coming back. And that's the second reason we're on the move. I committed to an approach of building an American economy, a different economy, to build back better, not just build back better. That approach recognizes that we all do better, and we all do well. And the best way to grow our economy is from the bottom up and the middle out. You know, I don't have anything against anybody in Wall Street. I don't have anything against anybody making $1 million, but Wall Street did not build this country. The middle class built this country, and unions built the middle class. That's a fact. An approach that recognizes that at this time, when we rebuild the middle class, we have to bring everybody along, regardless of their background, regardless of their religion, regardless of their race. That's the approach reflected in the American Rescue Plan, which my friends in the Congress helped get passed. Because of that law, more than 167 million Americans got a rescue payment of $1,400. It's gone out helping families pay their rent, pay their bills, buy their groceries, and maybe most important, give them for the first time some hope. A little bit of hope. Hope goes a long, long, long way. Those checks matter. Small businesses and restaurants were getting killed. Now we're delivering the loans and support they need to reopen and stay open. Schools were struggling to reopen, so we made targeting teachers to get the vaccine as a priority. We delivered schools much needed support. State and local governments, and you know, Mr. Mayor, a lot of them had to lay off their employees, cops, firefighters, first responders, because you have to balance your budget. Well, now they're coming back thanks to the rescue plan. Beginning this summer, families with children will get tax relief, tax credit, the child tax credit, which is going to deposit money directly into their banks every month until that money is paid out. By the way, we had no problem passing a $2 trillion tax plan that went to the top 1% that wasn't paid for at all, just increased the debt $2 trillion. Every time I talk about tax cuts for working class people, it's, oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take back some of that 1% money and make them pay for it. And thanks in part to part of the rescue plan named for an Ohio labor leader, Butch Lewis, championed by Sherrod Brown, who I don't think Sherrod's here today. Hundreds of thousands of retirees and workers across Ohio and millions more across the country can trust that their pensions they work so damn hard for and sacrificed to secure will be there for them. Unlike my dad, who busted his neck his whole life, and when the company went on, he lost his pension completely. Even my Republican friends in Congress, not a single one of them voted for the rescue plan. I'm not going to embarrass any one of them, but I have here a list of how back in their districts they're bragging about the rescue plan. They touted the restaurant revitalization fund. They touted the fact that we're in a situation where they're dealing with touted grants to community health care centers. Touted, I mean, some people have no shame. But I'm happy. I'm happy they know that it benefited their constituents. That's okay with me. But if you're going to try to take credit for what you've done, don't get in the way of what we still need to do. The bottom line is this. The Biden economic plan is working. We had record job creation. We're seeing record economic growth. We're creating a new paradigm, one that rewards work, the working people in this nation, not just those at the top. We did a study. 85% of my jobs plan, or 95% of my jobs plan, you don't need a bachelor's degree. 75%, you don't even need a degree that's a community college degree. It helps. But guess what? The bottom line is that people are going to be going back to work. There's a new bargain. Everyone is going to be in on the deal this time. Now, as our economy recovers, there's going to be some bumps in the road. We know that. Of course there will be. You can't reboot a global economy like flipping on a light switch. There's going to be ups and downs in jobs and economic reports. There's going to be supply chain issues. price distortions on the way back to a stable and steady growth. In the coming weeks, my administration will take steps to combat these supply pressures, starting with the construction materials and transportation bottlenecks and building off the work we're doing on computer chips. We're also announcing new initiatives to combat anti-competitive practices that hurt small businesses and families. Fixing those problems can help build a more dynamic, innovative economy, and we're going to have a lot more to say about that in the days ahead. But this is already clear. We're on the right track. The American Rescue Plan laid a strong foundation for a new economy that brings everybody along. But it's just a first step. We're going to build on the incentive and incredible progress that we've made and set America on a sustainable path to faster, more inclusive economic growth. We have to start investing in ourselves again, in the American people again. Consider this. 3 decades ago, the United States was number 1, and some would argue number 2 in the world for R&D spending, research and development as a share of our economy. You know where we are now in the international competition? We're number 9. 9. Meanwhile, China was number 8, and their overall spending on research and development 3 decades ago they're now number 2. Number 2. This past year, Japan, Canada, Italy, France, and the EU have announced significant infrastructure spending. China's announced that they're increasing their research and development spending dramatically. Japan is making huge investments in reducing carbon emissions and building out the digital capacity they have. The European Union as well. We're in a race to see who wins the 21st century. Now, if I could hold just for a second here, one of the things I've found, I'm supposedly, they'd always announced me in the past as an expert in foreign policy. Well, let me tell you something. Economic policy is harder than foreign policy. You know what the basis of foreign policy is in our stature in the world? One thing, our economic prowess. Our economic prowess. We must be number 1 in the world to lead the world in the 21st century. It's a simple proposition. And the starting gun has already gone off. We can't afford to fall any further behind. Now